Welcome to the Spirits of Cincinnati. I'm your host, Grayson Castellucci. Come with me and my Bearcast News colleagues on a journey around the Queen City, exploring the word spirits in new and interesting ways. We'll look at Cincinnati's beer brewing history, the revival of a popular label, and today's craft beer popularity. Then we'll examine the fascination with paranormal spirits at the local hotspots, Arnold's, Music Hall, and the Cincinnati Zoo. Then we'll step onto the slopes, mountains, and dance floors driven by the infectious spirit of UC clubs. The first stop is Cincinnati's beer brewing history and its German heritage. To help with that, here's my Bearcast News colleague, Sydney Panstingle. Sydney, wasn't Cincinnati once considered the beer brewing capital of the world?
Yeah, that's right. For much of the 1800s, actually, Cincinnati was built on beer. 36 breweries churned out 30 million gallons a year. Bearcast News reporter Mitchell Davey looks at that history, how Prohibition changed things, and how immigrants played a major role.
Have you ever noticed that many buildings in Cincinnati carry a hidden detail you might not notice? Some buildings, such as the Bavarian Beer Building behind me, carry a recognizable influence. There's a hidden heritage that runs underneath the city in the most unconventional places: beer. It's no secret that Cincinnati carries an abundance of German heritage. German architecture and history is apparent on the smallest details on buildings. That's not a mistake. Some reports indicate that by 1850, 30% of the city was made up of German immigrants, who carried their culture and practices into an area of the city that would come to be known as Over the Rhine. Matthew Bauman is a professor of German American history at the University of Cincinnati. He says there's a reason Cincinnati became a hub for German American culture.
Some Germans settle in Cincinnati. And what do? They write home about it, right? Say, you want to check in on the relatives. How are things going? Also, I'm in this great new place.
That translated into beer brewing. While Englishman Davis Embry opened Cincinnati's first brewery in 1812, the German community in Over the Rhine would popularize a format of brewing that would come to be known as lager.
Lager beer has been brewed for some time, but no one knows quite why it works, right? You kind of put it in a cave, you let it go, you get lager beer.
The German brewing influence extended into the families and hierarchies that made them happen. Park Hill's resident Charlie Metzger documents that in an expansive collection of brewing memorabilia, stating it draws him closer to the history of the city.
Yeah, just being aware about the processes that went into crafting the beer in the city, and just knowing that there's still modern breweries that produce that German-style beer, whether it's a lager or pilsner. It really lets you respect the history and the effort that goes into making the beer.
You can still come across brewery buildings, both new and old, that carry the influence of German heritage. Tour groups explore tunnels and cellars that once were the main beer brewing and storage sites. There are even German-themed bar crawls and events throughout the city year-round. No matter where you look, Cincinnati has not forgotten its roots, and there's clear evidence of that on tap. This is Mitchell Davey with Bearcast News.
Thanks, Mitchell. Those early brewing days produced some famous beer brands well known to Cincinnatians. Among them were Hudepol, Schaenling, Christian Moerlein, Burger, and Red Top. Some of those labels are still around today.
One brand dominated northern Kentucky for decades, then disappeared. Now Wiedemann Beer is back. Bearcast News reporter Grace Diedrich found it's happening in a brewery and tap room tucked away in St. Bernard.
German immigrant George Wiedemann began brewing in Newport, Kentucky in 1870, and within 20 years was the largest brewer in Kentucky. It became one of the most recognized beers in the area until it closed its doors in 1983. A Pittsburgh company owned the name for years but didn't produce any beer, until a Cincinnatian, John Newberry, bought the rights to the brand in 2012. 6 years later, he and his wife have turned a vacant funeral home in St. Bernard into a brewery, tap room, and beer garden.
To do good, to save, to revive the Wiedemann brand, which has been around for more than 150 years now. It was a big part of Cincinnati's beer culture for decades.
Steve Shaw is the head brewer, making sure each batch meets the standards that George Wiedemann expected.
Yeast convert the sugars into alcohols, and from there after a 7 to 14 to 21 day fermentation period, The beers will transfer from there into what we call a bright tank, and that's where they clarify and we carbonate them and then prepare them for package.
For the Newberries and their staff, Wiedemann is more than a brewery. It's about bringing the community back together. The beer that made Wiedemann so popular is the same beer that has been voted Cincinnati's favorite beer 2 years in a row.
We get so many people in here who tell me, I used to get beers out of the refrigerator for my grandfather and his buddies when they were sitting around watching Reds games on TVs and things like that. So I think it's just it's an important part of the social fabric in Cincinnati.
Wiedemann's has become a home for all kinds of communities, from trivia nights to dart leagues to mug clubs and even international soccer fans.
My wife and I have been part of the local Byron Club for about 13 years. And Wiedemann's we came to a few years ago, and I love the team, I love the city.
What once was a place to mourn is now a place to celebrate, and a beer that a whole city grew up with is now back on tap.
Wiedemann's is open Tuesday through Sundays at 4811 Vine Street in St. Bernard. This is Grace Diedrich reporting for Bearcats News.
Thanks, Grace. Wiedemann is competing today with a wide range of craft beers that often produce small batches but have a very large following. Some of those are Braxton, Mad Tree, March 1st, and Urban Artifacts.
But the largest is Rheingeist, headquartered in Over the Rhine. Bearcast News reporter Aiden Riggs digs deep into the brand's unique history, how it grew, and plans to make it even bigger.
Over the Rhine and brewing beer have been synonymous for hundreds of years. But now in the 21st century, a new kind of brewery is the main attraction.
But craft beer at its core, to me, is just well-crafted, flavorful beer that has a really great occasion and purpose and fits a need state for the consumer.
Rheingeist Brewery was established in 2013 right in the heart of Over the Rhine. Rheingeist CEO Adam Bankovich tells how the company embraces the neighborhood's spirit down to its core.
Rheingeist translates to Spirit of the Rhine, and we love that name. We bring it to life every day in all that we do. So Crafted with Spirit is kind of our internal marketing slogan that embodies the definition of Spirit of the Rhine.
There's so many other breweries in the Cincinnati area, the competition can be fierce. But Rheingeist sees other breweries as more than just competitors.
We like to call each other compatriots. So yes, we're competing, we're trying to sell as much beer as possible, but we're also really friendly with each other, talking about problems and challenges and what's working and what's not. And that's pretty unique. So on that hand, it's really nice and friendly. But on the other hand, you're right, it's a business and we have goals that we strive to attain, as do all the other craft breweries here in Cincinnati, throughout the greater tri-state region or across the entire country, because we're competing with all of them, certainly at our scale.
While still one of the newer names in local brewing, Rheingeist has one of the most recognizable beers in the city. Cincy Light, a beer created in partnership with the University of Cincinnati's NIL collective Cincy Reigns, has a portion of its proceeds donated to the Name, Image, and Likeness Fund at UC. But Adam takes the most pride in other things the beer has done.
It extends beyond just the university impacts and really has gone out all around Cincinnati to become the beer of Cincinnati. And that means a lot to us as well, that people have found it and chosen it and gone back to it time and time again. And we're thrilled to have created that brand.
Rheingeist sets the pace for craft brewing in the area, but Adam believes the sky's the limit for the brewery.
We achieved the status of the largest craft brewery in Ohio 2 years ago, which was really exciting. It wasn't something that we had on a cork forward as a goal of ours. We just always want to continue growing. I'm really proud of everything the company's achieved up until this point, but we're certainly not going to get lax and stop trying to achieve more. So the future has yet to be written for us.
For Bearcast News, I'm Aiden Riggs.
Have you seen ghosts around Cincinnati? Urban legends say they're everywhere. My Bearcast News colleague Asante Sacco joins me now with stories of the seen, unseen, and tales told around campfires.
Spirits have been spotted all over town, including Music Hall and the Cincinnati Zoo. My partner here explores the city's oldest continuously running bar and grill that's still full of life and perhaps the afterlife.
Giggles of unseen children are heard with scampering feet.
But it was very much unexplainable.
Many report the overwhelming scent of roses. The ghost of a former patron is often seen looking through windows or peering from the top of the stairs. Chris Breeden has heard them all before.
So I'm a skeptic. I don't know if I really believe Arnold's is haunted. I do know that there's been some things that I've seen that are unexplainable.
Chris and his wife Bethany are the current owners of this historical bar.
So Arnold's is the oldest bar in Cincinnati. We've been open continuously since 1861.
The building's first use was as a brothel, then a bar under Simon Arnold. The Arnold family operated the place and lived above it for 98 years until 1959. Breeden has heard countless stories from his employees, including about a former cook named Steve, who was known for his flamboyant clothing.
And one time when a bartender was here by herself closing, a cab driver came in and asked if the guy out front was the one asking for the cab, and she said, "What guy?" And then he described exactly Steve and how he dressed to a T, and there was never anyone there.
As we investigated upstairs for ourselves, this happened.
Oh, did you hear that?
What was that? What? We heard a knocking from the next room over, but we're completely alone upstairs.
Though I'm kind of skeptical, I know plenty of people that aren't, and there's only one way to really find out if we're haunted, and that's to come and see for yourself.
I'm Grayson Castellucci for Bearcast News.
Thank you, Grayson. I didn't know that. Another paranormal experience is across town at a much larger location, the Music Hall.
The building has hosted boxing, UC basketball games, conventions, opera, ballet, and orchestras. But Bearcast News reporter Sydney Panstingle found that where it was built has had people digging up ghost stories for years.
Music Hall is known for its great acoustics that enhance the sound of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, but it's the mysterious noises coming from beneath the stage that are sparking more questions than answers. Judy Knuckles is a paranormal investigator.
All kinds of things, whether it's voices that you hear, laughter of children, small boys walking around.
Those sounds can be traced to the 1830s when the land where Music Hall sits was a graveyard. The remains of thousands of cholera patients, victims of a steamboat explosion, and orphans were buried there. Music Hall construction began in 1875, and the orphanage stood where the stage is, and the graves were beneath the south wing of the building. These are the reasons for why people believe it is haunted, but by no means are the spirits malevolent. Knuckles says the spirits aren't mean. She should know. She's investigated over 60 supposed paranormal places and started the Music Hall ghost tours 15 years ago.
You know, I always love talking about all things paranormal, and talking about Music Hall is a bonus because, as I said, it's such an iconic building. There are so many stories, and we would have people on the tours tell us stories.
Guests and workers report hearing instruments playing on their own, young boys running through the auditorium.
Who's there? Hello?
And people wandering in period clothing. Melanie Sandy took over these ghost tours after Judy left.
A spirit that's sometimes felt over there that's a little girl. And so she said, you know, when she had just done the tour, handprints had shown up on the window behind her. And so as I was telling that story, handprints showed up on the window behind me as I was telling it.
The tours keep the history alive and keep the spirits company. You might just have to come hear it and maybe even see it to believe it's true. This is Sydney Panstingle for Bearcast News.
Thanks, Sydney. By day, the Cincinnati Zoo is packed with fun for all ages, but when the sun goes down, some unexplainable things begin to happen.
Bearcast News reporter Avery Shields found that many believe ghosts mingle with the giraffes and the gorillas.
The Cincinnati Zoo opened its doors in 1875, just the second zoo in the United States, but often ranked number 1 by visitors. It's known for its conservation efforts, being the greenest zoo in America, and it is home to the beloved Fiona the hippo. But with that much history comes a considerable amount of mystery. See, these big cats are one of the many animals people love to see at the zoo. But the glass barrier is all part of the fun. However, nighttime workers might think differently. While stories of paranormal activity involving people are legendary in Cincinnati, only one place offers a new species of ghost. That's right, a ghostly lioness seems to freely roam the zoo when the sun goes down. Allie Foster is the zoo's after-hours event coordinator. She says this paranormal predator is really just a big playful cat.
She likes to chase things. She likes to, all of a sudden you'll just kind of see like a pair of glowing eyes in a bush or something like that.
And she isn't the only one who has experienced this friendly feline. After-hours security officers are also often the victims of this spirit's antics.
Like our public safety team, they report in our Africa section of our zoo. If they drive through that area after hours on the golf cart, they feel like they're being chased.
And this is just the most documented ghost story coming from the Cincinnati Zoo. So next time you're at the zoo and think you see something in the bushes but nothing is there, it might just be this paranormal panthera. This is Avery Shields for the Spirits of Cincinnati.
For our final spirits section, we're back here on the Clifton campus with my colleague, Lindsay Brown. Lindsay, there's a wealth of infectious student spirit both on and off campus.
Yes, there is in dozens of clubs. When students aren't in class, they're pursuing interests like dancing and mountaineering. That's where hundreds of students find fun and friendship. I found my second home outdoors on skis and snowboards as a Cincy Snowcat.
If flying down snow-covered slopes is your idea of fun, the Cincy Snowcats have your ticket punched for you. Cincy Snowcats is a club that brings together students who love skiing and snowboarding as well as the outdoors, while creating a strong social atmosphere on campus. If the sound of a ski lift is music to your ears, Cincy Snowcats is playing your tune. Club president Lily Kievsky says Snowcats creates a sense of belonging.
We have people from all different majors, all different grades, that all come together to do the thing we love, which is ski or snowboard.
Over the years, Snowcats have traveled across the country and around the world, visiting places like Steamboat, Aspen, Keystone, Canada, and Europe, giving students experiences that go far beyond the University of Cincinnati.
These trips are more than just getaways for members. They build friendships and lifelong memories. That's what keeps Sarah Rogo coming back for club meetings and trips time and time again.
In the least cheesy way possible, I truly have met some of my best friends through the club. Like, it's more than just the meetings and the trips. It's like texting my friends once a week to see if they want to just hang out.
President Kievsky says anyone with a sense of adventure and a free spirit can join.
We almost doubled in members this past year compared to last year, which is super exciting. So I've gotten to meet a bunch of new people and bring new ideas to the club.
For many students, that connection is what defines the spirit of Cincinnati.
I think it just kind of speaks to how much fun we have and like the friendships that we build and like the family that we are.
From campus to the slopes, Cincy Snowcats is showing that school spirit doesn't just stay on the Clifton campus. It travels with you. This is Lindsay Brown for Bearcast News and for the Spirits of Cincinnati.
That looks like a lot of fun, Lindsay, but you and your friends aren't the only UC students getting outside.
That's true. The Mountaineering Club has over 600 members, and they're not just climbing peaks. Bearcast News reporter Emily Woodman found they're into hiking, caving, whitewater rafting, and any other challenges they can find.
When it's time to get away from schoolwork, Luke Chmielewski heads for the roads, rivers, and trails. The physics major is the gear cave manager of the UC Mountaineering Club.
It's the room where we keep all of the gear and where we run our rental program, which is kind of our biggest asset, and being, having a tangible effect on a tangible way to achieve our goal as a club, which is to get as many people outside as possible.
The Gear Cave is one of many ways the exec board supports new members, where anyone can rent equipment for a flat rate of $30 per semester. The goal is exploration, learning, and having fun. Chmielewski came to UC Mountaineering for his love of the outdoors, but stayed for his friendships.
I think I've grown a lot as a climber, and kind of being in an environment with a bunch of like-minded people has kind of allowed me to focus on my goals and what I really want to achieve. It's also kind of become my main social outlet, social circle, so it's kind of like all of my friends.
The same can be said for Vice President Josh Herron.
the outdoors it brings them close together. I don't want to say it's all because of suffering, but definitely some of it's because of that type 2 fun.
Friends mingled in an auditorium on Wednesday night as nearly 100 students gathered for the club's weekly meeting. This one in particular is even more grand.
Is the friends that you make in this club. We're lifelong friends.
What's known as UC's biggest and best student organization hosted its founders, all of which are alum from 1971. The biggest takeaway? You don't have to be an expert at climbing or hiking. The only requirement is spirit and support for one another. There's a spirit of friendship in these students that can and has lasted generations. This is Emily Woodman for Bearcast News.
Thanks, Emily. Our final club is known around the world for its energy, intricate steps, and precision. We're talking about the award-winning UC dance team, of course.
Bearcast News reporter Asante Sacco says the team is gearing up for another major competition to try and add more hardware to its trophy case.
The UC dance team is alive with the sound of music. For the first time in over 10 years, they are returning to the International Cheer Unit in Orlando, Florida this April.
5 and 6 and 7 and an 8 and a 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4. It's better.
The ICU World Dance is a premier global competition for dance and cheer. UC is selected to represent the United States as their national hip-hop team. And the dance squad couldn't be more eager for the opportunity.
It's a dream come true. We try to do this every year, and coming into my senior year and getting to do it, it's honestly so surreal.
UC Dance has won gold 6 times in the ICU Championship, 2009 marking the first time a college team was selected to represent the United States. To go to Orlando, they need support from the Bearcats community. The Bearcats have hosted a fundraiser which covers traveling, logging, meals, and other expenses. In the meantime, dancers like senior Brooke Atwoods continue to keep their spirits high while trying to balance their daily lives.
I'm very appreciative of the skills that being on this team has taught me. Time management, respect, responsibility, holding myself accountable, holding others accountable. Like those two kind of fall under leadership.
But she looks forward to a chance to compete with the best dancers around the world. You can show your support by donating to the UC Foundation funding for their trip to Orlando. This is Asante Sacco with your Bearcast News.
That's all the time we have to explore this phenomenon. We've explored spirits in brewing, the paranormal, and UC clubs, but it's really about everywhere you bring the spirit that you love to the things you see and do. I'm Grayson Castellucci. These are my Bearcast News colleagues. Thanks for watching The Spirits of Cincinnati.